All right, very good evening to all of you. It's quite nice to see a lot of participants in a class. Can someone confirm if you all can hear me loud and clear, please?
Yes, we
Can
can hear.
someone confirm if you... Right, thank you so much. So first and foremost, I welcome you for the revision series that you're doing for your December exams. We are quite at the mouth of it itself, right? Because today being the 23rd, we are quite close to your exam days. And therefore, time should be used much wisely. As I have told in my recorded sessions already, some of you, I think, must have purchased it. Some of you must have not purchased the recorded sessions. So this would be, a high time for you to identify. Now, I'll just first give you a little introduction, right, about what is really happening. And I will tell you my purview as to what I think what you would do, what you need to do, to pass once and for all this exam happening in December and finish it off, So first and foremost, what I personally think is now you have very less amount of time, right? So first thing you need to do is to prioritize as to what you know and what you don't know for every subject, right? So if you should take my subject, that is law, basically there are 10 lessons. So I'm going to give you another small, today being the first day of the revision class, a minute introduction again with regard to the lesson structures that we have, and under each lesson, what do we expect? What are the how in the exam, usually every year, same areas have been questioned. So we can at least, think what are the areas that will be questioned in the upcoming exam. Because of course, uh, there's a slight risk though, this being the last, exam that you will be having under this particular syllabus. There is a chance that they might question areas which have not been questioned till now. But also we have to keep in mind that their intention is not to put you under the new syllabus again. Whoever who have been studying the old syllabus, what CA wants to do is to, pass you off, finish it off from there, so that, for the other the stages of the examinations that you do, that you will be sitting for those under the particular, what do you call it, new syllabus that is being continued from next year onwards. So let's keep at this point, we can't keep a lot of, we have to go by the odds, right? We can't think what will happen, what will not happen. We don't have time for that. So my personal thing is, let's do an analysis on the papers that we have. We have around 4 papers. My intention is to do 4 papers with you. But now the June 2025 paper is also out. So I'll tell you what I intend to do with it. So personally, what I want to do is, I'm not going to discuss the June 2025 exam with you now itself, right? We'll keep it for a minute. We'll do the 2020, the previous examinations, right? The 2024, 2023, December, June papers, those we will discuss. And then the last paper, I'll tell you what we are going to do with it on the last day of the class, okay? So what I usually from this session, what I want you all to do is today, from today's session, not here forth, from today's session, what I want you to do is, first and foremost, you have to see whether you can understand what I say, because if not, you purchasing my recordings is not going to help you, right? First, you have to understand whether you are getting something out of this revision series, right? I'll tell you how I'm going to do the revisions next. First, you have to understand today whether you can understand what I say. Now, basically, you have to sit for the paper in English. So my explanations will be in English. If any one of you require to ask me something, of course, you can ask in Sinhala. මට හොඳට සිංහලෙන් කතා කරන්න පුළුවන්. මට සිංහලෙන් විස්තර කරන්නත් පුළුවන්. So I will explain to you in English. If any one of you need an explanation in Sinhala, you can even drop me a text. There's a message, I'll reply to that. You can drop me a text, or rather, you can talk to me and ask. This is like a small, not a small, but quite a big family. But you can, of course, ask me anything. I'll be more than happy to help you. You can even ask in Sinhala. It's okay. I would have loved to even explain in Tamil. Unfortunately, I'm not very conversant in Tamil. So for that reason, I'm sorry I can't explain in Tamil. So you can even ask questions in Sinhala or English as you wish, right? After you ascertain whether you can understand what I say or not, next thing I want you all to do is, yes, the next step of the way, right, is for you to think, okay, now today I'm giving you the 10 lessons that we have to, do for this examination. So in the 10 lessons, what are the areas that you're good at? What are the areas that you're not good at? You have to ascertain, right? Based on what you are good at and based on what you are not good at, next stage of the process is you have to decide whether you're going to purchase the recordings or not. Now, of course, you can't purchase 1, 2 of the recordings. I think you have to purchase the entire set of recordings, if I'm not mistaken. So that's anyway up to you. If you think that the theory knowledge I have is good, I can understand what is being said, and I when I look at the question, I can answer it, right? Then of course purchasing. I have to be fair by you, though this is an earning mechanism. We at Online Akura are even more concerned of passing you all once and for all. After you get the recording, you need some time to listen to it also, and you have very less time, right? But if you are a person who is weak in your theory, undoubtedly you have to buy the recordings and watch it, because and in the recordings I have explained everything everything, right? Not selected areas. I have explained everything, but in a very concise manner, so that within a small period of time you can understand it, right? Only problem is you can't ask questions in the recording. So if you're watching the recordings and if you have any questions, I suggest you note them down, right? And then when we are doing the revision, in the middle of the revision series, feel free to ask me any question. If it's something I can help you with, then and there I will help you out. If it's something that even I don't know, I will do my research and get back to you. Now, with that, I'll answer the question. Someone have asked a question, how many classes are we going to do for this subject? So my intention is to do 4 classes. How are the 4 classes? Now, today we are doing the first class, that is the 23rd. So today I'll be doing the December 2024 paper. I told you 2025, I'm keeping it for a while because I have something else to do with that paper. I'll tell you later. So I'm going to start with the December 2024 paper today. Okay. Then next week, we are going to do another paper. That is the now today is the 23rd. So 30th of November, we'll be doing the second paper. Then again on I think the next Sunday is the 7th. 7th of December, we'll be doing one more paper, and the 14th of December, one more paper. With that, I will tell you how you have to now. Of course, preparing for the exam, you should start now. You can't wait till the 14th of December. But 14th of December, I will tell you, okay, now you are at the mouth of the exam. What is the expectation within the upcoming weeks? That I will tell you. Okay, so basically, to answer your question in short, how many classes for the subject? 4 classes. That is the intention, right? To do 4 classes with you, so that now already if you have purchased the recordings, you have the recordings. In the meantime of these 4 weeks, you have to listen to the recording and finish it off also. Recording recording is not kept to listen to after the exam, right? මගේ කටහඬ එච්චර ප්‍රසන්න කටහඬක් නෙමෙයි. ඕක තිය අහන් ඉන්න, right? වැඩක් නෑ. exam එකට ඉස්සෙල්ලා ඕක අහලා ඉවර කරන්න. Before the exam, you should listen to this and finish it off, right? And in the meantime, you can, if you have any questions, note them down. At the revision, you can ask me. I will help you out. That's the main, plan. Okay, for the day, I think the class is being recorded. Yes, so there, if you should miss any revision series, which I now suggest, you're at the mouth of the exam, don't keep to go on trips and all at the weekends. Keep these weekends, because all of you, I think majority of you are working people or sometimes studying people. So you have enough or more things to do during the weekdays. Keep the weekend to study. May weekends hatara up until you sit for the exam. Don't, go on tripping and Netflixing and whatnot. You have to dedicate for this exam, finish it off in one go. Now, speaking about my subject, corporate law. Corporate law is not a difficult subject. They haven't asked, the nitty-gritties of the subject are usually not questioned. They actually question you at a very minute surface level. And also, as I told you before, questions are repeated consecutively every year. Of course, not the same scenario, not the same. I'm saying the same area of corporate law is being questioned, right? So therefore, there is no reason for you to fail the exam. Now, in my revision series, what I intend to do is, I'll tell you now, I'll show this to you also. So I have put up a table like this. We are going to now I'll tell you what you need to have for the revision classes when we are doing the classes. We are going to put the unit name and see how often it has been questioned in section 1, section 2 and section 3. Now that will help us to do a final analysis. When we go for the, when we at the last revision class, it will help us to do a final analysis on what questions most probably will be questioned at the examination. So that's the plan, right? So we are going to do an analysis. Whilst we discuss the questions, we are going to do an analysis because we have to understand all of us are not really good at by hearting. අපි හැමෝම කටපාඩම් කරන්නම හරියන පුද්ගලයෝ නෙමෙයි. පුළුවන් අය ඉන්නවා, right? But what you have to understand is law is a theory subject, katapadam subject. Law is a subject that you have to in general by heart. It's how law is, right? Not only for you all, me who is a lawyer, I have been, practicing. I have completed up to my master's, actually reading for my PhD. Even now, law is a by hearting subject, right? So therefore, I can't change the mechanism of the subject for you. Subject එක mechanism එක මාරු කරන්න මට බලයක් නැහැ, right? Only thing is I can guide you. Why we do this analysis is for those of you who are not good at by hearting, so that you will be able to look at the analysis. At least the essential areas you need to by heart, you can by heart and go, right? That's the reason of this analysis. Now, I'll again tell you what I'm going to do in the revision. While we are doing the revision series, how are we going to do it? So basically, there are 3 sections of, I'll come to that also, the paper structure. There are 3 sections in the paper, section 1, section 2, and section 3, right? So I don't know whether the past papers past paper discussions or answer scripts of CA, whether it's accessible to you. Can someone give me a wording on it? Are the answer scripts available to you? Anyone who knows whether the answer scripts are available to you? Okay, I'm not getting a response, so I'm thinking they are not. Okay, right. So why I say this is I'll show that also to you. It's very easy, right? If you have the answer script, it's going to be very easy for the reason that okay, I'll share my screen itself and show you. It's okay. So if you go through the answer script, where did I have the answer script? Wait, I'll get the answer script and show you. So if you go through the answer script, they have given you the page numbers also. I don't know whether it's accessible to you. You will have to find it on your own. So what you have to understand is through the answer scripts, it's actually very, very easy for you to assess, right? It's very, very easy for you to assess the area that has been questioned. I'll show you the answer script here now. Okay, so you can see here, if you can see my shared screen, you can see for this particular paper, the answer script comes with the page number, right? What you ought to know, the page number, with that only the answer script comes, right? So therefore, what my intention, usually how I do this revision series is, I take one question. We are going to first study that question, because answering the question is not the thing, right? In my revision series, because that same question will not be asked from you at the exam. My intention is that you understand what is the area that has been questioned. My intention is you understand what is the area that has been questioned. And next time when a question of that area is asked, you are able to answer. That is my personal intention, what I want you to do, right? So along with the past papers, I don't know whether you all have copies of the past papers. Anyway, I'll be sharing the past paper here with you. What I want you all to do is, you need to have a separate set of papers, or either if you're having a book for law, you can, have that book. So whatever the important areas, maybe a small note on that question, I might give before answering the question, right? But this process takes a lot of time, which is difficult to be done in 2 hours. Maybe I'll give you the essential topics that you need to remember with a very small note, so that we will be able to discuss all the questions without missing any one of them. Okay, so every week I'll be doing one paper with you. And whilst discussing the papers, we will see what are the areas that have been asked continuously. Now, first and foremost, we will fill in this table as to what are the areas that are generally being questioned. Let me share the screen with you. This is the syllabus topics, right? Syllabus topics that you ought to know. For corporate law is this. This, of course, by now you should know. At least the areas that you need to know, you need to have an idea about it now. So the first lesson, we are going to study about the features of a company. First lesson, we are going to study about the features of a company. Second lesson is on incorporation of a company. Incorporation of a company. Third lesson is on equity and debt capital. equity and debt capital. I prefer if you have a piece of paper and you also list down the lessons that we have to do, because in front of the lessons, we can, write down what questions have been questioned the most, right? Whether it's section A, section B, or section 3, because depending on how much questions are being asked in that particular area, the focus you have to give on the lesson differs. That's why. So third lesson is on equity and debt capital. Then we have company officers, that is directors, company secretaries, and auditors. Directors, company secretary, and auditor. That is the fourth unit. I want you all to write this down if you have a piece of paper, because what are the areas that you need to study? You should know by now. So for us to do the analysis, writing this down is very important. Next one about meetings and resolutions of a company. Meetings and resolutions. Then after that, resolutions. After that, the lesson is on winding up. That is how we close down a company. Winding up of a company. Then we have companies limited by guarantee and overseas companies. Companies limited by guarantee and overseas companies. After that, we have no, minority rights is coming before that. It's okay. We'll write minority rights here. Minority rights. After that, we have listing a company, Colombo Stock Exchange, right? After that, we have Colombo Stock Exchange. Colombo Stock Exchange, and we have one more lesson that is on other laws, other corporate laws, right? So now let me share this particular slide with you so that you know the main areas. Do this analysis on your own, right? You also have this analysis with you. It will be helpful for you to also ascertain when you're studying what are the areas that you need to give special focus on and what are the areas that need not have much focus. So these are the main 10 lessons, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 lessons altogether. Some of these areas are highly questioned in different sections. Some of these areas are very less questioned. That is what we are going to do. Okay, we are going to analyze what are the areas that are being discussed. There's a question. Do we get the recording through online or rapid revision? Okay. I'm sorry, I'm not clear on the question. Are you asking whether this particular 4 sessions that we do, whether it will be available to you? Is that the question? If I am getting it right? Or is your question about the these 4? I think that you're supposed to get most probably. I think in your you have a separate WhatsApp group for it, no? So you can maybe drop a message on the WhatsApp group. As far as I know, these 4 lecture recordings you will get, right? But I'll just give a small clue also for you here. Now, sometimes we think, okay, I'll do it tomorrow. I'll listen to the recording tomorrow. Right? Or, you think today is not the day. We all have been Sri Lankans. We have a little Balagiri in us. Adano way heta. Adane me heta hanawa nidda hanawa kila api kalada inno. My point is, if Sunday, every day my class is going to be at this time, 5:30 to 7:30. If you are available at that time, try to listen to the record, try to join the class then and there and finish it off. Because if you keep it to listen throughout the week, you're adding more to your work, no? If you're free at this time, try to, of course, there can be situations where you're not well and you want the recording. That I understand. That's okay. But if you are available, try to join the class and finish it off once and for all. Otherwise you have to keep on. And here in the class, we'll be doing the studying also. පාඩම් කරන ටික class එකේදීම කරනවා. ආයෙ පස්සේ පාඩම් කිරීමක් අවශ්‍ය වෙන්නේ නැහැ. So if much as possible, try to join the class, right? Then there's a question. recording දානවා. දෝ මම හිතන්නේ recordings දානවා. මම දන්න තරමට recording එක දානවා. කෝකටත් කියලා ඔයගලන්ගේ WhatsApp group එකේ පොඩ්ඩක් message එකක් දාලා අහන්න. recordings කියන්නේ අර මේ lessons වල recordings ටික නෙමෙයි මං හිතන්නේ. ඒක වෙනම purchase කරන්නට ඕනේ. මේ record sessions හතරේ recording එක බොහෝ දුරට WhatsApp group එකේ දානවා මම දන්න තරමට. Okay? So I think I have answered your questions. හරි. With that, let's move on to the first question. If you have the December 2024 paper with you, December 2024 paper එක පොඩ්ඩක් හරව ගන්න. That is what we are going to discuss now. The December 2024 paper. So let me open it up for you. Can everyone see my shared screen, the paper? The December 2024 paper? Can someone confirm if you all can see the paper, Putha, what I have shared? Visible, no? Right, thank you. So first we'll go through the this instructions. Some of the, not everything is not important. Some of the instructions are important. I'll explain them to you. So you're getting a 3-hour paper, right? Basically for the corporate law paper, you're getting 3 hours. Separately, you're getting 15 minutes reading time. A 15 minutes reading time උත් use කරන විදිහක් තියෙනවා. 15 minutes reading time එකේ අපි MCQs ටික කියවන්නේ නෑ ළමයි. Because MCQs is a thing that you have to read then and there, answer it then and there. The MCQs කියවන්න 15 minutes ලොකුවට ගන්නෙ නෑ. You take the 15 minutes to go through your section 2 and section 3 questions. That also, you read the question and next to the question, you should be able to, put a note, what is the area the question is based on. මොකද අපි සිලෙක්ට් කරන්න ඕනේ අපි මොන questions ද මුලින් answer කරන්නේ මොන questions ද පස්සේ answer කරන්න කියලා. ඒතර ඒක කරගන්න තමයි ඔය 15 minutes තියෙන්නේ. Right? A 15 minutes reading time එකේ what you have to analyze is your section 2 and section 3 questions. Because MCQs usually you have to read then and there, answer then and there and finish it off. That is how it happens, right? මතක තියාගන්න. Reading time of 15 minutes is basically for your section 2 and section 3. Because there are scenarios, you need to read the scenario and analyze the scenario. For that purpose, we have 15 minutes reading time. So the paper has 3 parts, as I told you, section 1, section 2, and section 3. Section 1 paper is of multiple choice questions, 10 multiple choice questions that you will get. Section 2 have 4 questions. They are, how can I explain? Okay, they ask theory questions, right? In that section 2, they ask theory questions, but you have to write down more, not like an MCQ. Theory questions, but you have to write. Right? There's a lot of, theories to write down. Now, section 3, on the other hand, where you get 2 questions, it's a lot of application of the law. How do you apply the law to a scenario is the section 3 questions. You usually get 2 such questions. So answers to question 1, that is A, B, C or D, should be entered in the answer booklet that is being given to you. For section 2 and 3, you have to start it in separate papers. අපි ඔක්කොම මේ A level ලියලා තියෙනවනේ ඒ විදිහටම තමයි same way of writing A level answers. අර එකම paper එකේ ඔක්කොම උත්තර ලියාගෙන යන්නේ නැහැ. Each question you have to start in a new paper, something like that. So here they have said that for that as an open book exam, you can take the Companies Act number 7 of 2007. මෙමයි ළමයි. In your syllabus, you are not expected to study the section numbers of the Companies Act. The Companies Act එක අරන් ගියයි කියලා ඔයගලන්ට වෙන සෙතක් නෑ. I mean, you can of course take the Companies Act. I don't know whether they provide it at the exam hall. But anyway, the Companies Act number 7 of 2007 being with you is not going to really help you at large, right? Just to let you know. Okay, so other textbooks, those materials are not allowed, and all your answers should be in English. That is something you should remember. You can't right now. Of course, I understand all of you might not be having an equal level of English knowledge. අපි හැමෝටම එක සමාන English knowledge එකක් නැති වෙන්න පුළුවන්. That is perfectly all right, but try during this time to answer as many papers as possible, right? Try during this time to answer as many papers as possible. Yes, answer as many papers as possible and try to polish up your English. For section 1, as long as you read and understand, that's enough. But for section 2 and 3, you need to have a very good clue on what you are going to write down. So slight grammar errors are fine, as we know none of us are from Britain. No, we all are Sri Lankans. Slight grammar errors are fine. Slight spelling errors are fine. But as long as the examiner can understand what you are trying to communicate, as long as you can do that, if your English knowledge is up to that level, that is enough. Okay. So with that, let's move on to section 1. Particularly, they say you have to answer all the questions. All questions are compulsory. Total marks for section 1 is 20 marks. That is, usually you get 2 marks per question because you have 10 MCQ questions. So they have given the recommended time also. They say that you have to finish this off within 36 minutes. My personal suggestion, 36 minutes is too much. You should be able to answer this in 30 minutes. That is the practice you need to have. Answers ලියලම පුරුදු වෙන්න ඕනේ විනාඩි 30න් MCQ paper එක ඉවර කරන්න. But they are suggesting that you can take up to 36 minutes. Okay, right. So let's read the first question. Which of the following statements is true in relation to directors of companies incorporated under the Companies Act number 7 of 2007? So they are asking in general about directors. Now, in this type of question, I'm trying to answer as much as whilst using the time wisely. When students ask questions, I'm trying to answer them also as much as possible. Question එකක් නිකන් හරි මට මිස් වෙලා කියලා දැනෙනවා නම් ආයෙත් ඒ question එක එවන්න. In case if you feel that I have missed on a question, please resend that question to me. So there's a question. අපි ඇක්ට් එකේ sticky notes අලවලා අපේ ලේසියට තියාගන්නවානේ මේ දවස්වල. අපි exam එකට යද්දී ඒ sticky note tags ඔක්කොම remove කරන්න ඕනේද? Of course, yes. නිකන් හරි ඔයා ස්ටිකි නෝට් එකක් අලවලා තිබිලා මෙහෙමනේ අපි ස්ටිකි නෝට් එක අලවන්නේ අපේ පහසුවට බවත් ඇත්ත. ඒතර උනාට දැන් ඔක්කොම මිනිස්සු අපි වගේ ජෙනුයින් උත් නෑනේ. එතකොට මොකක් හරි ඔය ස්ටිකි නෝට් එක අලවන් යන්න ඉඩ තියෙනවා. ලියාගෙන යන්න ඉඩ තියෙනවා. එතකොට ස්ටිකි නෝට්ස් මොකුත් ගෙන යන්න බෑ. ඇත්තම කතාව කම්පනීස් ඇක්ට් එක මෙහෙම නිකන් පෙරලලා හරි බලනවා ලියපු මොන හරි කම්පනීස් ඇක්ට් එක ඇතුලේ තියනවාද කියලා. ඒතර කම්පනීස් ඇක්ට් එක නිකන් පියෝ කම්පනීස් ඇක්ට් එක විතරයි ගෙනියන්න පුළුවන්. ඒක ඇතුලේ වෙන මුකුත් උත්තර ලියලා හෝ එක්ස්ප්ලනේෂන්ස් ලියලා හෝ ලිස්ට් එකක් ලියලා හෝ ඒ වගේ දේවල් කරන්න බෑ. පැහැදිලි නේද? ප්‍රශ්නේ අහපු එක නම් මම හිතනවා මම උත්තර දුන්නා කියලා. නිකම් ප්‍රශ්න දාගන්න ඕනේ නැති නිසා ස්ටිකි නෝට්ස් ටික ගලවලා යන්න. අපි ටැග් එක අපේ පහසුවට දාලා තිබුණාට සාමාන්‍යයෙන් එහෙම ටැග් කරන්න යන්න බෑ. අපි මොන එක්සෑම් එකකට ගියත් මේ අපිට ස්ටිකි නෝට්ස් වත් ඒ වගේ ඒවා ටැග් කරන්න යන්නට බෑ. හරි? Okay, ඒක සාමාන්‍යයෙන් ඔයගලන් ඕනම ජීවිත එක්සෑම් එකකට මතක තියාගන්න. අපිට ඕපන් බුක් එක්සෑම් එකක වුණත් පොතක් ගෙනියන්න දුන්නට ඒ පොත ඇතුලේ අපිට ඕන දෙයක් ලියාගෙන යන්න හෝ ස්ටිකි නෝට්ස් අලවන්න හෝ ඒ වගේ දේවල් සාමාන්‍යයෙන් permitted නෑ around the world at any exam. ඕනම එක්සෑම් එකක. Right. So they have asked the question. Now, whenever you read this sort of question, first thing you have to understand is this particular word, whether the word is true or false. අපෙන් අහන්නේ false statement එක select කරන්නද true statement එක. දැන් මෙතනදී true. ඊට ඉස්සෙල්ලා තියෙන proverb එකක් බලන්න. දැන් මෙතන තියෙන්නේ is true. ඒ කියන්නේ ඔයාගෙන් උත්තර දෙකක් නෙවෙයි බලාපොරොත්තු වෙන්නේ එක උත්තරයයි. Right? They are asking which of the following statements is true. No, meaning they are only requesting one answer from you. ඒකත් බලන්න ඕනේ. දැන් නිකමට හරි two answers අහලා තිබිලා එක උත්තරයක් ගහලා આવොත් අපරාධ. ඒකත් ඇනලයිස් කරන්න ඕනේ. එතකොට එක උත්තරයක් දා ඉල්ලලා තියෙන දෙකක්ද කියලා පැහැදිලි වෙන්නට ඕනේ. True the false ද ඉල්ලලා තියෙන්නේ කියලා පැහැදිලි වෙන්නට ඕනේ. True false questions වල. Right? True false questions වල. There's a question, how about highlighting the Companies Act? I mean, that of course can't be stopped. No, highlight කරන එක නවත්තන්න බෑ. මොකද දැන් අපි පාඩම් කරද්දිම highlight කරනවානේ. So you might highlight whilst you study also. Highlighting is fine. Yes, highlighting is fine, of course, because you can't buy a new Companies Act to go for the exam itself. No, highlighting is fine, but make sure that you don't write anything else inside it. Personally, I don't think that it will be of much use for you, but if you want to highlighting, I don't think they will, take offense in highlighting, right? Okay, so they're asking about the, right. Directors, right, in relation to directors. And මතක තියාගන්න මෙතන executive the non-executive the එහෙම කියලා නෑ. So that means in general they have asked about the directors, right? So basically about this director part is if you have your textbook with you, right? If you have the textbook with you, you can take the textbook. Page number 66 talks about directors, right? Page number 66 talks about directors. So I'll be analyzing it a little bit for you, and then we will be moving on to answer the question. Then you will see how easy it is to answer the question. That's why I told you here itself we are studying it off. අපි පාඩම් කළාම තමයි ඉවර කරන්නේ. එතකොට ආයෙත් ඔක තව දවසකට පාඩම් කරන්න දෙයක් නැහැ. Right? So 66 mainly talks about the types of directors, and based on the types of directors, their role. Okay? So we'll just read it through. I don't know whether y'all can see my screen. Most probably you must be able to see the text that is here. So first about executive and non-executive directors, it says an executive director is a director who has separate responsibilities within the company as an employee of the company. Very, very important. Executive directors are employees of the company. If you have your textbook with you, or anything, or if you want to write down under, you can write the topic directors. So question number 1, under that you can just simply write the topic directors. And under directors, you can just write in point form these important details. First thing, remember, executive directors must be employees of the company. If you want, you can write down executive directors must be employees of the company. In addition to the responsibilities of a director. So they are directors as well as employees of the company. A non-executive director is a member of a company's board of directors who is not a part of the executive team. So non-executive directors are not employees. They are not a part of the executive team. They usually do not engage in the day-to-day management of the organization. So you can write the next point. Non-executive directors, you can write it as NED, right? Non-executive directors do not engage. Non-executive directors do not engage in the day-to-day management of the organization. Non-executive directors do not engage in the day-to-day management of the organization. Do not engage in the day-to-day management of the organization, but they are involved in policy making and planning exercises. So they do the strategic planning, longer term planning for the organization. In addition, non-executive directors' responsibilities include, you can write down responsibilities of NEDs. Responsibilities of NEDs, non-executive directors. Responsibilities of non-executive directors. First point under that, responsibilities of non-executive directors. First point under that. Monitoring of executive directors. First point under that, monitoring of executive directors. Monitoring of executive directors. Next point, act in the interest of stakeholders. Monitoring of executive directors, act in the interest of stakeholders, not shareholders, stakeholders. It is important to note that both executive and non-executive directors have the same responsibilities in law and can be held liable in the same manner. But their responsibilities, they are held liable in the same manner, right? Companies Act doesn't impose any mandatory requirement that a board should include non-executive directors, but the listing rules of the Colombo Stock Exchange require public limited companies to have a minimum of 2 non-executive directors. Very, very important. Under the Companies Act, having non-executive directors is not a must. But if you are a listed company, that is, if you are a company listed in the Colombo Stock Exchange, minimum you need to have 2 non-executive directors. Then මේ question එකේ ඒක අහලා නැති වුණාට ඊළඟ අවුරුද්දේ question එකට ඒක අහන්න පුළුවන්. ඒකයි මේ analysis එක වැදගත් වෙන්නේ. That's why this analysis is important. Though they have not questioned this at this paper, next paper they might question it, right? So next point under directors you can write down under the listing rules of CSE, Colombo Stock Exchange. Under the listing rules of CSE, Colombo Stock Exchange. Under the listing rules of... Okay, so they have asked me whether I can share the paper with you. Can you all give me a minute to share the paper on the WhatsApp so that I can share the paper on the WhatsApp group for you? Give me a minute. Let me send an email and share it with you so that you have access to it. Give me a minute. Someone have asked for the paper, I think. So let me share it with you. So they will put it on your WhatsApp group. I'm not a member of the WhatsApp group, so I can't share it with you. They will share it with you. Give me a minute. I'll share it with all. Right. So the paper will be shared with you on your WhatsApp group. This paper, if you don't have access to it, this paper will be shared with you. Now, someone must have messaged and asked for the paper. Right. So we'll continue to write our note. Write down under the listing rules of the Colombo Stock Exchange, CSE. Public limited companies must have a minimum of 2 non-executive directors. Public limited companies must have a minimum of 2 non-executive directors. So what are the things we studied in this question? Executive directors must be employees of the company. Non-executive directors are not, and they don't manage the day-to-day affairs of the company. Role of the non-executive directors is to monitor the executive directors and to look for the interest of the stakeholders in the company. We also studied that according to the Companies Act, there's no requirement to have non-executive directors. But the Colombo Stock Exchange rule says that you need to have at least 2 non-executive directors for a public limited company, right? Then let's read through the remaining also. The managing director is an executive director appointed by the board. So managing director is usually an executive director. Next point you can write down. Managing director or MD in a company, right? MD is an executive director. So managing director is usually an executive director, right? MD is an executive director appointed by the board as the managing director of the company, subject to the provisions provided by the articles of the company. Managing director, as with other executive directors, usually has a contract of employment. So if you're an employee of the company, if you're an executive director, you're an employee. If you're an employee in the company, you have a contract of employment, right? With the company and acts in dual capacity as a director and an employee, that we studied. No, an executive director is a director who has separate responsibilities within the company as an employee. Such directors will write down role of an executive director. Next point, role of an executive director. Next point, role of an executive director. First point under that, engage in the day-to-day management of the organization. Engage in the day-to-day management of the organization. Engage in the day-to-day management of the organization. Next point, involved in policy making and planning exercises. Involved in policy making and planning exercises. Involved in policy making and planning exercises. Okay. So we studied the that executive directors are employees. Executive directors are employees. Non-executive directors are not employees. Non-executive directors do not get engaged in the day-to-day functions of the company. Non-executive directors monitor the executive directors and look into the interest of any stakeholders. According to the Colombo Stock Exchange rules, listing rules, non-executive directors need, there should be at least 2 non-executive directors in a public limited company. Managing director is usually an executive director, and executive directors usually do the day-to-day management of the company and involved in the policy making and planning exercises. Okay, right. So those are what you need to know. Okay. Now with that, we'll move on to the question, right? With that, let's move on to the question. Question number 1 says, which of the following statements is true? They're asking for a true statement about the company's directors according to Companies Act number 7 of 2007. An executive director is a director whose responsibilities must necessarily be outlined in the company's articles of association. Right? Executive director is a director whose responsibilities must necessarily be outlined in the company's articles of association. I told you, executive directors are usually employees of the organization. Employees of the organization enter into an employment contract with the company. So in the employment contract, what are the expectations of that particular person will be written down. So it doesn't have to come from the articles of association. It doesn't have to come from the articles of association. Therefore, that statement is wrong. An executive director need not be a permanent employee of the company. We studied that executive directors must be employees of the company. Therefore, that statement is also wrong. The day-to-day management of a company is always done by its non-executive directors and not by the executive directors. We know that is wrong because it's the other way around. The day-to-day management of the company is done by the executive directors, not by the non-executive directors. Non-executive directors' responsibilities include the monitoring of the company's executive directors. We studied that. That is correct, right? We studied that. That is correct. So therefore, question number 1, answer is answer D, the last answer. Question number 1, answer is answer D, the last answer. So the first question of December 2024, they have asked from the director's lesson. So in our document here, so section 1, so under company directors, they have asked one question from section 1, right? They have asked one question from section 1, right? With that, let's move on to let's move on to the second question, right? Let's move on to the second question. It says, Johnny, the company, a person called Johnny says, Companies Act number 7 of 2007 allows the company to issue shares that are ranked higher than the normal ordinary shares. They're talking about a share. What are the features said? That the share is higher than the ordinary shares. In the event of a winding up, the shareholders of these higher ranked shares are entitled to fixed dividend. So these, as the company is going to close down, at the winding up of the company, they are paid a fixed dividend, a fixed amount, and the fixed return of their capital. Now, Rani says the holders of these shares get a higher priority. The important word in this question is the word priority, right? Over the holders of ordinary shares in the event of dividend distribution. Meaning, before ordinary shareholders are paid, this particular holders of shares are paid. What type of shares are being referred to by both Jani and Rani is the question. Answers are preference shares, non-voting shares, deferred shares, and redeemable shares, right? So these share categories are discussed in your syllabus, in your book, pages 47 and 48. Sorry. Pages 47 and 48. We'll read it and then answer the question. Like previously, we'll study and then answer the question, right? 47 and 48. Okay, so the types of shares have been given, and each type of share, there are some features. So we are going to study how many types of shares: ordinary shares, preference shares, deferred shares, non-voting shares, and redeemable shares. So 5 types of shares. You should know the features and the good things and the bad things of the 5 types of shares, right? So you can, if you have a note, if you're writing down a note, question number 2. Under question number 2, you can write down first, number 1, ordinary shares. Ordinary shares. Basic form of shares is ordinary shares. Most companies have just ordinary shares. Ordinary shares vest the owner with 1 vote per share. So under ordinary shares, you can write down 1 vote per share. Under ordinary shares, you can write down 1 vote per share. Next point, you can write down entitlement to participate equally in dividends. Entitlement to participate equally in dividends. So they can get equal dividends. All the ordinary shareholders will get equal dividends. Entitlement to participate equally in dividends. Next point, it says if the company is wound up, share in the proceeds of the company's assets after all the debts have been paid. We simply say that you can take part in surplus capital. ඒ කියන්නේ creditors ල ඔක්කොටම සල්ලි ගෙවුවයින් පස්සේ ඉතුරු වෙන සල්ලි ටික තියෙනවනේ කම්පැනි එකේ. ඉතුරු වෙන සල්ලි ටිකට අයිතිවාසිකම් කියන්න පුළුවන් ordinary shareholders ලට තමයි. ඒක මෙහෙම හිතන්න නිකන් උදාහරණයකට. අපේ ගෙදර කවුරු හරි කණ්ඩ ආවොත් එහෙම අපි අනිත් අයට කන්න දීලා නේ අපි කන්නේ ඒක එකක්. ඒතර ඒ වගේ තමයි ordinary shareholders නිකන් කම්පැනි එකේ අර මූලික අයිතිකාරයෝ වගේ. අනිත් හැමෝම කාලේ ඉවරණයින් පස්සේ තමයි ordinary shareholders ලා යාළගේ chance එක හම්බෙන්නේ. හැබැයි අපි දෙන කෑමේදී කෑම ඉතුරු වුණොත් ඒක විසිටර්ස්ලා අරන් යනවද අපිට ගෙදරට තියා ගන්නවද? අපිට ගෙදර තියෙනවනේ. ඒ වගේ ordinary shareholders can take part in the surplus capital. ඔක්කොටම ණය ගෙවුවයින් පස්සේ the remaining money in the company. කම්පැනි එකේ ඉතුරු වෙන සල්ලි ටිකට අයිතිවාසිකම් කියන්න පුළුවන් ordinary shareholders ලට. Right? So you can write the next point, take part in surplus capital. You can write the next point, take part in surplus capital. Holders of ordinary shares have a right to unrestricted participation in the dividends of the company and to the distribution of its remaining property. That is what we discussed before. The risk is that holders of ordinary shares will be entitled to dividends only if the company makes profits. Next point you can write down under ordinary shareholders will only get dividends if the company makes a profit. Will only get dividends if the company makes a profit. will only get dividends if the company makes a profit. Company ke profit තිබ්බොත් තමයි ordinary shareholders ලට dividend එකක් හම්බෙන්නේ. So what are the features of ordinary shareholders? We'll study it here itself. First one, they have 1 vote per share. They can participate equally to the dividends and they can take part in surplus capital, right? Those are the three good things. The bad thing is you will only be paid a dividend if the company is making a profit. Right? Next one, you can write down preference shares. Next one, you can write down preference shares. In terms of section 49(3)(b) of the Companies Act, the company can issue shares having a ranking above ordinary shares in specified aspects. Preference company can issue shares having a ranking above ordinary shares. Write down ranking above ordinary shares. Ordinary shares වලට වඩා ඉහළින් තමයි preference shares තියෙන්නේ. Put a point and write down ranking above ordinary shares. Ranking above ordinary shares. Preference shareholders have a priority to a fixed dividend. Write down priority to a fixed dividend. Write down priority to a fixed dividend. Priority to a fixed dividend. Priority to a fixed dividend. Next point, priority for the return of capital. Priority for the return of capital. Capital they did, preference shareholders are paid first, right? Priority to the return of capital. Then it says these usually confer rights preferential dividends which may be cumulative or non-cumulative. That is, වෙන වෙනම අවුරුදු ගාන ගෙවන්නත් පුළුවන් cumulatively. එකතුවක් විදියට they can pay once and for all also. You don't have to know about it. General rule is that shares rank equally. The terms related to preference shares have to be clearly stated at the time of the issue. So for preference shares, what we studied is that they are ranking above ordinary shares and the preference shareholders have a priority to a fixed dividend and they are paid in priority when there's a return of capital. That is for preference shareholders, right? Next point you can write down deferred shares. So deferred shares are not a very common type of share, right? In companies now, they actually don't even issue deferred shares. These shares are issued with limited rights. In a modern world company, the tendency is not to issue deferred shares. The fact that the deferred shares have no rights to dividends during a particular period does not mean they are not ordinary share capital. So during particular times, deferred shareholders are not paid a dividend. That's the feature, right? Deferred shares are often created for commercial reasons to enable private investors to take capital growth instead of dividend income. They are generally issued to founders or write down under deferred shares, usually issued to founders or directors of the company. Usually issued to founders or directors of the company. Usually people don't pay money and buy deferred shares. Deferred shares are usually issued to founders, directors of the company. Next point you can write down, no right to a company's remaining assets. No right to a company's remaining assets. So if the company is going to close down, deferred shareholders don't get anything from the company. Until all common and preferred shareholders have been paid. Just simply remember that these shares are issued to directors and founders of the company. So non-voting shares, as the word in itself says, there's no voting right. So next point you can write down non-voting shares. Next point, non-voting shares. Companies may issue shares which do not carry voting rights at all or which carry limited rights of voting in specified situations as set out in the Articles of Association. Such shares are usually issued for the purpose of retaining control with the promoters. So basically the feature of non-voting shares is that you don't get a vote. Now we studied under ordinary shareholders that there's 1 vote per share. No? So there is no votes in non-voting shares. Even if there are votes, very limited voting will be there. Such shares are usually issued to, maybe now, usually if we give power for someone to vote in the company, we are diluting the power. of the company. Not to dilute the power of the company only, usually issue non-voting shares. For example, there could be situations where law prohibits foreign control of certain types of companies. We are coming to foreign shareholding of companies also later, right? Redeemable shares. Redeemable shares are created on the understanding that they will be bought back by the company. Next point you can write down. Redeemable shares. Redeemable shares. Under redeemable shares, you can write down shares that are bought back by the company. Shares that are bought back by the company. Company ka ayat, e shares salli dila ganna. Bought back by the company. The redemption may be at the option of the company or the shareholder on a fixed date upon the occurrence of an event. So sometimes when the company is issuing redeemable shares, they will particularly say, we will buy back these redeemable shares on this particular day, right? So if that is said on that particular day, company will buy it, or at the option of either the company or the shareholder, like that. The price at which the shares must be redeemed will also be specified either on the basis of a predetermined price or a formula. So at what price it will be bought back will also be mentioned, right? Okay, so now we know 5 types of shares. Ordinary shares and preference shares is mostly what you need to know. Little bit about redeemable, non-voting and deferred shares are enough, right? Not much. Now we'll get to our question again. So it's as and when it says company to issue shares that are ranked higher than normal ordinary shares, what are they talking about? Ranked higher than normal ordinary shares, what are they talking about? Ranked higher than normal ordinary shares කිව්ව ගමන් කවුරු ගැනද කතා කරන්නේ? Answer A, B, C or D. Now you all have to, interact with me. I'll be just talking like a fool for 2 hours. You should, give your feedback. Then only I feel like explaining more and more. What do you think? Second question, you make enough and more mistakes here in class, no problem. Don't make mistakes at the exam. That is my intention. Right? No problem. Of course, it should be preference shareholders, as all of you have sent the correct answer. Right? It should be preference shares. So, second question, answer is answer answer A, the first answer, preference shares. Second question, answer is answer A, the first answer, preference shares. Hari. Now we'll update our list here. So again, another section 1 question was from, this question is from equity and debt capital. Shares are discussed in equity and debt capital. So that is done. Okay, right. So let's get back to our third question. Let's get to our third question. Right. Question says, which of the following statements is correct in relation to dividends? Right? Which of the following statements is correct in relation to dividends? Let's not read the dividends part there. Page number 51 speaks of dividends. Let's see what are the important things we need to know about dividends. Page number 51. Right. Okay, so question under dividends, there's what is, first we have the definition of a dividend and then the features of dividends. So under dividends, those of you are writing down a note, question number 3, dividends, right? Question number 3, dividends. A benefit that a shareholder derives from owning shares in the company. We all know what is a dividend. That's the payment being made to the shareholders of the company if the company makes a profit, right? So you can write down, this is the benefit that a shareholder derives. This is the benefit that a shareholder derives from owning shares in the company. This is the benefit that a shareholder derives from owning shares in the company. This is the benefit that a shareholder derives from owning shares in the company. Is that the shareholder is entitled to a benefit from the profits that are derived from the company. This benefit is commonly allocated in the form of dividends. So of course, dividends are paid out of the profits, distributable profit of the company. Next point you can write down, dividends are paid out of the, you can write down the next point, dividends are paid out of the distributable profits of the company. Dividends are paid out of the distributable profits of the company. So if any one of you want to remember, you can remember the section numbers. If you ask me personally, I know that majority of students are not good with numbers. So, remembering the section number is not important. Of course, if you can remember, you can easily refer to the Companies Act. So, මතක තියාගන්න පුළුවන් නම් මතක තියාගන්න. නැත්නම් ලොකුවට numbers මතක තියාගන්න උවමනාවක් නැහැ. Section 61 states 60 subsection 1 states that dividend is a distribution out of the profits of the company other than an acquisition by the company of its own shares. So if the company buys its own shares, then there is no, company can't take a part of the dividend or redemption of shares by the company. A dividend is the benefit that the shareholders get in return for their investment. So shareholders invest in the company, that is the return that they get. Any distribution made by the company may be termed as dividend if it fits the description of a dividend as specified in section 60 subsection 1. Board has discretion in, next point you can write down. The board has the discretion in issuing dividends. So who has the call in issuing dividends? The board of directors. You can write down. Board has the discretion in issuing dividends. Board has the discretion in issuing dividends. Board has the discretion in issuing dividends. Right. But where dividends have been unreasonably restricted, court may intervene. Right. Next point you can write down. Where dividends have been unreasonably restricted, court may intervene. Where dividends have been unreasonably restricted, court may intervene, right? That is, usually board of directors have the say to decide whether the company is going to pay dividends or not. But if the company is unduly holding dividends, then the court will intervene and say, no, you have to pay the dividends. The shareholders of a same class are entitled to equal treatment in respect of dividends. We discussed it under shares. It is noted that a company is only allowed to declare dividends in favor of its shareholders if the company meets the solvency test. Very, very important. You can only declare a dividend if the company meets the solvency test or if the company passes the solvency test. You can write down the next point. So solvency test, in several papers, they have questioned it again. So I'll not take it up here. Next point you can write down. To issue a dividend, company must pass the solvency test. To issue a dividend, company must pass the solvency test. I'll explain to you what the solvency test is. What the solvency test says is that you should be able to pay your debts. Company එකේ ණය ගෙවල ඉවර කරන්න පුළුවන් වෙන්න ඕනේ within a period of 12 months. ඉස්සරහට එන මාස 12 ඇතුළත අපිට කම්පැනි එකේ සියලුම ණය ගෙවල ඉවර කරන්න පුළුවන් තත්වෙක ඉන්නවා නම් තමයි අපි ඒකට solvency test එක pass වුණා කියලා කියන්නේ. We say that you have passed the solvency test if the company is able to pay the company's debts within the upcoming 12 months, right? That's all for dividend. Before we move on to the question, there are 2 questions students have asked. I'll answer them. Can you please explain to me how to go through CL4 within 1 month, how to ready for its self-study? Harry. First thing you have to understand is, now I am giving this answer without knowing your capacity. Different people have different capacities. මේ මුළු පොතම මාසෙන් නෙමෙයි සති දෙකෙන් ඉගෙනගෙන exam ලියන්න පුළුවන් ළමයි ඉන්නවා. There are students who can go through this entire text in 2 weeks and sit for the exam. Also, there are students who need at least 4 to 5 months to go through this particular study text. You have to understand where you are in the spectrum, right? Anyhow, we have to sit for the exam in 1 month. Whatever said or done, we have to sit for the exam in 1 month. So my suggestion for you is, if you are a person who is good at studying, only way out is to study your study text, right? But 1 month, I don't know. Again, I don't know whether you're at home, whether you're doing any studies, whether you're going to work, that I don't know, right? You have to balance this with your other work, no? If you have time to go through the study text, study the study text, 1 month is enough. But for those of you who don't have time, right, the option is to either, I mean, if you don't know the subject areas, you have to purchase the recordings, listen to it on your way to office, on your way back, before you go to sleep, try to listen to it and get the theories into your head. And participate in this revision series where questions are being discussed and the most essential areas you need to remember, I will tell you. Anivaryen mataka tiyaganna one areas I will tell you. Okay. Other than that, because without knowing much details about you, it's difficult for me to say, Puta. But if you can go through the study text on your own, self-study, 1 month is enough. But only if you can do so. Eka karanna puluwan නම් විතරයි. But if you can't do that, then the other option is for you to purchase the recordings, listen to it separately, whilst participating in the rapid revision class, where I'll be studying with you the areas that they have been questioned over the past years, right? So that's, I think I answered your question. If you have a further question, you can ask. What's the question that we are discussing? We are in question number 3. We are in question number 3. We are studying and going forward. That's why. Then there's a question, recording එක දානවද මේකේ. මම දන්න තරමට recording එක share කරයි ඔයගලන්ගේ WhatsApp group එකේ. recording link එකක් share කරයි Google Drive link එකක් විදිහට. කෝකටත් කියලා ඔයගලන්ගේ WhatsApp group එකේ message එකක් දාලා තියන්න අපිට recording එක දෙනවද කියලා. කවුරු හරි එක්කෙනෙක් දාන්න. It will be helpful for everyone. Okay? පුළුවන් නම් ක්ලාස් එකට join වෙන්න කම්මැලි කමට නම් ක්ලාස් එක දාලා යන්න එපා. just a waste of time. යගලා මේ පැය දෙක ඕක අහන් හිටියා නම් මේ පැය දෙකේ හරි පාඩම් කරනවානේ. ඉතින් ඒක නිසා කම්මැලි කමට නම් දාලා යන්න එපා. පුළුවන් තරම් ක්ලාස් එකේදීම මේවා කරගන්න බලන්න. How to purchase the recordings? So to purchase the recordings you can speak to online Akura. I think they must have you have to place an order or something, then they will tell you. May recording නෙමෙයි, because this revision series recordings is a separate story. But if you want to get the sorry, lessons that are recorded previously, එකනේ lessons කියන්නේ මේ revision එකටම අපි කරපු recordings තියෙනවා. For the revision itself, we did some recordings from the lessons that you can purchase from online Akura. You can talk to them, they will help you out. There's a question, ඉරිදා විතරද class තියෙන්නේ, weekdays නැද්ද රැට classes? එතකොට අපි දැනට organize කරලා තියෙන්නේ weekend එකට තමයි. මම දැන් මගේ subject එකයි උදේ තව subject එකක් තිබ්බා. මම හිතන්නේ උදේ 9 to 11 8 to 10 9 to 11 එක class එකක් තිබ්බා. මම හිතන්නේ ඔයගලන්ට මගේ class එක schedule කරලා තියෙන්නේ Sunday evening. අපි බලමු දැන් ඇත්තටම මෙහෙම කතා කරගෙන යද්දි තේරෙනවා ගොඩාක් දේවල් තියෙනවා ඔයගලන් එක්ක කතා කරන්න. කියන්නේ අපිට මෙහෙමම පාඩම් කරගන්න පුළුවන් නම් ලේසියි. හැබැයි ඉතින් පැය දෙක මට ඔක්කොම ඔයගලන් එක්ක පැය 8ක් නේ හම්බෙන්නේ. පැය 8කින් මෙහෙම question එකෙන් question එක discuss කරන්න අමාරුයි. දැන් අපි ඉස්සරහට යද්දි අපි කලින් discuss කරපු areas මම ආයි discuss කරන්නේ නැහැ. මොකද ඒකට වැඩක් නැහැ. I'll just give you the answer and move on, right? ඒක නිසා තමයි ප්‍රශ්නේ තියෙන්නේ. මගේ class එක දැන්ට schedule කරලා තියෙන්නේ Sunday evening තමයි. Okay, so I think I have answered the questions. Okay, so there's more questions coming in. To purchase, are we to pay? The class recordings, yes. So the class recordings in the sense what I separately for every lesson, essential things you need to study, I have done separate set of recordings that you need to purchase. This, as far as I know, the first 1 or 2 classes links will be put on the WhatsApp group that you will have to ask online Akura Puta. Okay. So the revision series, I think it is happening free. This revision series, I think it is happening free. But about the purchasing of the recordings, that is the lessons, the discussions, where again, that is in a not a very comprehensive, ගොඩාක් වෙලා ගන්න recordings විදියට නෙමෙයි. කෙටි කෙටියෙන් ඔයගලන් මතක තියාගන්න ඕනේ ඒවා විතරක් දාලා තමයි මේ recordings එක කරලා තියෙන්නේ. Don't come to a wrong impression. මේ ආයේ පාඩම් කරනවා වගේ දිගට උගන්වලා තියෙනවා කියලා නැහැ. ඒක මේ revision එකටම අපි focus කරලා තමයි කරේ. Only the essential aspects have been discussed. එතකොට ඒක purchase කරන්න ඕනේ කියලා තමයි මගේ දැනුම තියෙන්නේ. That is what I know. These recordings, I think the links will be put on your WhatsApp group. Try to join the class at the class time though, because you can ask any questions, you know, because I am live here only at this point. So you can ask me questions very openly, right? But listening to the recordings, it's going to be difficult because you can't ask any questions from me directly. So therefore, if you're free during 5:30 to 7:30, which I say that you have to be free for the upcoming 4 weeks because exam is just, you know, very close, right? So therefore, try to, you know, join the class 5:30 to 7:30 without missing it. Okay, now knowing about dividends, let's get to the question. Which of the following statements is correct in relation to dividends? Dividend is a payment made by a company from its profits to its employees. Correct or wrong? I want your answers soon. Hurry up. Dividend is a payment made by a company from its profits to its employees. Is dividend paid to the employees or to the shareholders? Dividends are paid to the shareholders, not to the employees. So it is false, right? Dividends are paid to the shareholders, not to the employees. Dividend is the mandatory annual payment made by a company to its shareholders as a return on their investment in that company. I'm telling you that statement is wrong. Can you tell me what is the wrong word? B statement is wrong. Can someone tell me what is the wrong word? The word mandatory. The word mandatory. Why? It's not a it's only, you know, if the company have distributable profits, that they will pay the dividend. So you can't say that it's mandatory. Good. The court can intervene in the instances where dividends have been unreasonably restricted. That's correct. No, we studied it. We wrote a small note also. C is correct. Satisfying the solvency test is not a requirement for a declaration of dividends by a company. Again, that is wrong. I told you, passing the solvency test is a must. Without passing the solvency test, you can't declare dividends. Okay. So therefore, third question answer is answer C, the third answer, right? Third question answer is answer C, the third answer. Right. Okay, so let's fill it up in our document. Again, they have asked section 1 question here. So in that paper, from equity and debt capital, there has been 2 questions. From equity and debt capital, there has been 2 questions. Right, let's move on to the 4th question, right? Shani is the company's company secretary of Gunny Bags Private Limited, GB. GB purchased a land in Yakkala for its factory and is about to give the title deed to the land registry for registration. At the time of registration and beyond, Shani is required to fulfill certain responsibilities. Now, Shani being the company secretary, right? Fulfill certain responsibilities under the Land Restriction on Alienation Act number 38 of 2014. From this particular act, Land Restrictions on Alienation Act number 38 of 2014, high amount of questions are asked. You need, it's just 1 page in your syllabus. The particular area is just 1 page, but you need to remember it in and out. Because otherwise you're not going to face this successfully, right? So you can turn to page number 189 in your textbook, 189 for this Land Alienation Act. So at the very end, usually, under other laws are 189. This one, very, very important act. So those of you are writing down a note under question number 4. Right, question number 4, you can write the topic Land Restriction on Alienation Act. The numbers you don't have to remember, right? In the paper, it will be there, 38 of 2014, right? Land Restriction on Alienation Act. This is an act to make provisions to stipulate restrictions on the alienation of land in Sri Lanka to foreigners, foreign companies, and certain institutions with foreign shareholding, right? So basically, this act is there to make sure that land is not alienated. Api land venayata denne monayatada. To foreigners, there are limitations on giving lands to foreigners, to foreign companies, and other institutions that have foreign shareholding. Other institutions that have foreign shareholding. For that purpose only, we have this particular act, right? Restrictions on transfer of lands. According to section 2 of the act, foreign nationals, foreign companies, and Sri Lankan companies of which 50% or more of its shareholding is held either directly or indirectly by a foreign or a foreign company cannot hold land in Sri Lanka. First point you can write down, who can't hold land in Sri Lanka? First point you can write down, who cannot hold land in Sri Lanka? Who cannot hold land in Sri Lanka? Who cannot hold land in Sri Lanka? There's a question, what is the meaning of alienation? Alienation means you give it over to someone else. Alienating means giving over. Now, let's say I have a land. My name is Dilani, right? I give the land to A, right? So that is, I have alienated the land to A. Now I am not the owner. I have given the ownership to A. That's the meaning of alienation. Okay? Right. So who cannot hold land in Sri Lanka? First point you can write down under that. Foreign nationals. Foreign nationals. ආයෙත් කියන්න. හරි. alienation කියලා කියන්නේ අපි කාට හරි ලෑන්ඩ් එක ලෑන්ඩ් එකක් කෙනෙක් මොන හරි දේපලක් අපි තව එක්කෙනෙක්ට ලබා දෙනවා. ඒකේ අහිමිකාරීත්වය ඕනර්ෂිප් එක තව එක්කෙනෙක්ට ලබා දෙන එකට තමයි ඒලියනේෂන් කියලා කියන්නේ. දැන් උදාහරණයක් විදිහට මගේ නම දිලානි. මගේ ප්‍රොපර්ටි එකක් තියෙනවා. මම ඒක A කියලා පුද්ගලයෙක්ට විකුණනවා. එතකොට මගේ හිමිකාරීත්වය ඉවර වෙලා Aට හිමිකාරීත්වය ලැබෙනවා. That is alienation. Are we clear now? The one who wanted me to say again, are we clear now? Okay, Puta, the one who wanted me to repeat the question, repeat the explanation. Okay, no, right. So you can write down who cannot hold land in Sri Lanka. First one, foreign nationals. Second one, foreign companies. Foreign nationals, foreign companies. Next point, Sri Lankan companies of which 50% or more of its shareholding, foreign companies and Sri Lankan companies of which 50% or more of its shareholding is held by a foreigner. 50% or more of its shareholding is held by a foreigner or a foreign company. Held by a foreigner or a foreign company. Held by a foreigner or a foreign company. Harry? 50% or more of its shareholding held by a foreign or a foreign. ඒගොල්ලන්ට land alienate කරන්න ඒගොල්ලන්ට land එක තියාගන්න බෑ. They can't hold land in Sri Lanka. A Sri Lankan company with less than 50% of foreign shareholding can hold land provided such foreign shareholding remain less than 50% for a minimum period of consecutive 20 years from the date of such transfer. Hari. දැන් අපි කියනවානේ for Sri Lankan company එකක share 50% shareholding වලට වඩා foreign shareholding තියෙනවා නම් එයාලට lands ගන්න බෑ. ඒ කියන්නේ Sri Lankan company එකක 50% වලට වඩා අඩුවෙන් shareholding තියෙනවා නම් land එකක් purchase කරන්න පුළුවන් නේ. ඒක කරන්න පුළුවන්. හැබැයි ඒ land එක purchase කරපු දවසේ ඉඳන් land එක ගත්ත දවසේ ඉඳන් අවුරුදු 20ක් යනකම් foreign shareholding 150ට වැඩි වෙන්න බෑ. foreign shareholding 150ට අඩුවෙන් තියාගෙන යන්නට ඕන. හරිද? 20 years කියන period එක මතක තියාගන්න. ඒකත් ලියාගන්නකො next point මේ lesson එක හරි important. They are questioning again and again. Next point you can write down. Sri Lankan companies with less than 50% foreign shareholding. Sri Lankan companies with less than 50% foreign shareholding have to maintain such shareholding. Have to maintain such shareholding. Have to maintain such shareholding for a minimum period of 20 years. From a minimum period of 20 years. For a minimum period of 20 years. For a minimum period of 20 years. For a minimum period of 20 years. Okay? It was however, foreign nationals, foreign companies and Sri Lankan companies of 50% or more of its shareholding is held either directly or indirectly by foreign or a foreign company can lease land up to 99 years. දැන් මොකද්ද මේ වෙනස alienation and leasing වල? දැන් transfer කියලා කියන්නේ නැත්නම් alienation කියන්නේ අපි අයිතියක් පිටින්ම ගන්නවා. විකුණනවායි කියලා කියන්නේ විකුණනවා නම් අපි අයිතිය පිටින්ම අනිත් පුද්ගලයාට දෙනවා. අපි කුලී පදනම මත ලීස් එකක් කියලා කියන්නේ කුලී පදනම මත දෙන්නට පුළුවන්. දැන් අපි දන්නවා foreigners, foreign nationals ලට foreign companies වලට Sri Lankan companies 50% වලට වඩා foreign shareholding තියෙන. එයාලට land purchase කරන්න බෑ. සල්ලි දීලා ownership එක ගන්න බෑ. හැබැයි ඒගොල්ලන්ට property එක lease කරගන්න පුළුවන්. අර මේ කුලියට ගන්න පුළුවන් property එකක් අවුරුදු 99ක් කුලිය පවත්වාගෙන යන්නත් පුළුවන්. අවුරුදු 99ක් කුලිය පවත්වාගෙන යන මේ වගේ පොඩි principles ටිකක් මතක තියාගන්න තියෙනවා. ඒක මතක තියාගත්තම මේ ඇක්ට් එකෙන් අහන ඕන ප්‍රශ්නයකට උත්තර දෙන්න පුළුවන්. හරි. but they can lease land up to 99 years. ඊළඟ point එක ලියා ගන්න. But they can lease land. මේ they කියලා කියන අර උඩ කියපු තුන foreigners, foreign companies, Sri Lankan companies over 50% foreign shareholding. තියෙන companies ගැන අපි කියන්නේ. They can lease land up to 99 years. They can lease land up to 99 years. 99 year lease කියන එක ඔයගලන් අහලා ඇති 99 බද්ද කියලා ඔය නිවුස් එහෙම අහනවා නම් නිවුස් වල කියන ඔය අපේ ප්‍රොපර්ටිස් ගොඩක් චීනෙට දීලා තියෙනවා for to China under 99 year lease අවුරුදු 99 lease බද්දට දෙන්න පුළුවන් විකුණන්න බෑ. Right. Next let's get to the responsibilities of the company secretary under this act. Act එකත් දැන් අපේ question එකේ තිබේ මේ Shan is a company secretary කියන්නේ what are the company secretary's responsibilities? Where the title of a land is transferred to a company incorporated in Sri Lanka under the Companies Act with less than 50% of foreign shareholding. So if it has less than 50% shareholding, you can give the land, no. But at a 20-year period, for 20 years, they have to maintain the same foreign shareholding. 50% it shall be the duty of the registrar of lands to confirm himself whether foreign shareholding of such companies less than 50% by requiring the secretary of such company to submit documentary proof to the effect that the foreign shareholding of such companies less than 50% of the total number of shares issued for the time. The company secretary තමයි documentation දෙන්න ඕනේ අපේ foreign shareholding මේ ගානට වඩා අඩුයි කියලා. ඒ කියන්නේ අපේ foreign shareholding what do you call it 50% වලට වඩා අඩුයි කියලා ඔප්පු කරන්න documents දෙන්න ඕනේ company secretary that our foreign shareholding is less than 50%. To prove it, documentation should be given by the company secretary. Okay, so you can write down the next point. So you can write down responsibilities of the company secretary. You can write down responsibilities of the company secretary. First point under that, submit documentary proof. Submit documentary proof. Submit documentary proof to the effect that submit documentary proof to the effect that the foreign shareholding of such company submit documentary proof to the effect that the foreign shareholding of such company is less than 50%, foreign shareholding of that company is less than 50% of the total number of shares, less than 50% of the total number of shares. Next it says, the company secretary to the relevant company shall inform the registrar of lands in writing every 6 months. Every 6 months period commencing from the date of the registration of the relevant deed of transfer that the foreign shareholding of such company has not exceeded 50% of the total number of shares issued by the company during the said period of 6 months. I told you, once a company that has less than 50% shareholding purchases a land, right? So up to the next 20 years, their shareholding, foreign shareholding cannot exceed 50% for a period of 20 years. 20 years අතරතුර company secretary every 6 months, again අවුරුද්දට දෙසරයක්, right? Every 6 months have to inform the registrar of lands that the foreign shareholding have not exceeded 50%, that the foreign shareholding have not exceeded 50%. Hari. Next point you can write down. Shall inform the registrar of lands in writing. Shall inform the registrar of lands in writing. Shall inform the registrar of lands in writing in every 6 months period. In every 6 months period that the foreign shareholding of the company, every 6 months period that the foreign shareholding of the company, that the foreign shareholding of the company has not exceeded, that the foreign shareholding of the company has not exceeded 50%. That's enough, have not exceeded 50%. So, two duties of the company secretary. First, have to submit the documentary proof that the company shareholding, foreign shareholding is less than 50%. From the date of the transfer, every 6 months, company secretary have to inform the registrar of lands that the foreign shareholding have not exceeded 50% in the particular shares of the company. Okay, right. Now, with that, let's try to answer this question. Now, you have to tell me the answer. Which of the following is correct with regard to the duties of the company secretary, right? S or Shani must submit documentary proof to the registrar confirming that any foreign shareholding in GB, that is gunny bags, at the time of the purchase was less than 50%. Okay, true or false? Is that a duty of the company secretary or not? True or false? Is that a duty of the company secretary or not? Is that a duty of the company secretary or not? It is a duty. Very good. So, තේරෙනවනේ දැන් අර වගේ අපි අරක ඇනලයිස් කළාම ලේසි. B says S must submit a confirmation to the registrar confirming that any foreign shareholding in GB will remain at less than 60% of the next 5 years. What is the word that is wrong in that statement? What is the word that is wrong in that statement? 20 years is wrong, but it very wrong. Sorry, 5 years is wrong. The 50%, right? It should be less than 50%. No, here they say 60%. So that statement is anyway wrong. 60% is also wrong. 5 years is also wrong. S must inform the registrar in writing every 3 months, commencing from the date of registration of the title deed, about the status of any foreign shareholding in GB. Now, what is wrong in that? What is wrong in that? You tell me. There are, again, 2 things that are wrong. One thing very clearly it is wrong. Not every 3 months, it should be every 6 months. Not every 3 months, it should be every 6 months. Other than that, it's not about giving the status of the foreign shareholding. You have to inform that it's less than 50%. අපි status එක inform කරලා කියලා දැන් අපේ shareholding 80% කියන්න බෑ. You have to show that it's always less than 50%. Then S must inform the registrar in writing every 6 months commencing from the date of registration of the title deed about all the other land transactions of GB during that period. That's not a requirement, right? That's not a requirement. So you tell me what is the answer for question number 4? You tell me what's the answer for question number 4? Everyone? Answer is answer A. Very good, right? So question number 4, answer is answer A. Question number 4, answer is answer A. Right. Now, we have come to the last half an hour of today's class. So I want to ask this from you just to get a clear view. Because for me to prepare for the next revision class in a way that it will be helpful for you. Right? Do you think this method is good, or do you want me to discuss the question only, or do you want me to discuss the area in the study text so that further questions can be answered by you? If you want, I can go by the questions only. What do you prefer? Now, everyone, please, if you have a feel for this class, just let me know. What do you think, that this method is okay, or you think, discussing the questions continuously is enough? So that we can, stick to that particular way depending on how you like it. Everyone, what do you all think? This method is good for you, or do you prefer to stick to the questions only? You all prefer this method? Okay, right. Yes, that means at least major amount of students responded, no? Okay. This is okay, right, good. Okay, thank you. Thank you for your feedback. Because this way, actually, then we are studying here itself. Okay, so question number 4, answer is answer A, the first answer. That is done. Answer A, the first answer. If you know, fifth එක වැරදි කියලා හොයාගන්න විදිහ explain කරා. Fourth එක. Fourth එක, ඒ කියන්නේ එක එක statement එක වැරදියි කියලා දහන්න පුතා. මට පොඩක් clear මදි. ඒ කියන්නේ මේ fourth question එකේ එක එක statement එක වැරදියි කියලා දහන්නේ නැත්නම් ඔයා refer කරන එක particular මේ D කියන part එක විතර දහන්න. හතරවෙනි ආන්සර් එක වැරදි වෙන විදිය. good. හරි. දැන් ඒකේ මේ 6 months period එක හරි. 6 months කියන කැලල හරි. හැබැයි ඒකේ ඊට පස්සේ කියනවා මේ company secretary inform කරන්න ඕනේ කියලා to the what do you call it to someone to the registrar, right? Inform to the registrar about the other land transaction. අපි හිතමුකෝ මේ GB company එකෙන් කියලා තව land එකක් ගත්තා කියලා ඔන්න ඒක ගැන inform කරන්න ඕනි කියලා registrar. එහෙම අවශ්‍ය වෙන්නේ නැහැ. ඒක වෙනමම transaction එකක් නේ. මේ අපි purchase කරපු දැන් මේ question එකේ හැටියට මේ යක්කල purchase කරපු land එක ගැන තමයි company secretary information දෙන්නට ඕනේ every 6 months. එයා ආයිත් වෙන කරන transactions වල details එතනට දෙන්න අවශ්‍ය නැහැ. Do you understand? That is why D is wrong. ඒක නිසා තමයි හතරවෙනි උත්තරේ වැරදි. Got it? The one who asked the question? Again, අපි හැමදේම company එකේ වෙන අලුත් දේවල් inform කරන්න ඕනේ නැහැ. හරි. Okay. So that is question number 4. Answer is answer A. Let's update our list. ඔන්න ඒක ඔන්න other corporate laws වලින් තමයි මේ question එක අහලා තියෙන්නේ. Right? Other corporate laws වලින් තමයි මේ question එක අහලා තියෙන්නේ. හරි. Now let's get to our questions again. Question number 5. මෙන්න මේක it's a very good question. Focus on it really well. මේක තව තද්දටම කටපාඩම් කරන්න ඕනේ area එකක්. I mean of course if we can මේ දැන් මේ foreign exchange act එක ඔයගලන්ට ළඟ තියාගන්න බෑනේ. ඉතින් මේක කටපාඩම් කරන්න ඕනේ area එකක්. හොඳට අහගෙන අපි දැන් මෙතනම පාඩම් කරලා ඉවර කරමු. We'll study it here and finish it off. Okay? There's a question, are you discussing all the essay questions also? Yes, right, I am discussing. Now, today I took it really slow because today is the first class. No, you all will not understand what I'm trying to say also. From the next session onwards, I'm going to speed up a little bit. Potak speed up karala. Api meetat vediya, right? Meeta vediya tikak kanda. Labna satya kumat ada. I won't be able to discuss the essay questions with you. I have to finish the class at 7:30. No, there are other MCQs tika balabu maybe hata. Essay questions would discuss karna. I will even teach you the method of writing answers. How to write answers, how to structure your answers also I'll be discussing. Don't worry. All section 2 and section 3 questions will also be discussed in this particular way. Okay. So I think I have answered your question. Harined? Right. Ravindra Gopal, an Indian national, is considering investing in the following manner in companies incorporated in Sri Lanka, which are engaged in the mentioned business activities in Sri Lanka. Now, particularly they are asking this question from the Foreign Exchange Act number 12 of 2017. Api area in our book, pages 184 and 185. Pages 184 and 185. Inward investment limits ගැන තමයි අහන්නේ 184 and 185. If you are writing down a note, write down inward investment limits for companies. Inward investment limits for companies. I'll simply explain to you what is this inward investment. Inward investment කියන්නේ අපේ රටේ තියෙන business එකකට හෝ වෙන මොන හරි activity එකකට පිට රටකින් සල්ලි දාන එක. කියන්නේ දැන් අපි කියන ලංකාවේ Sri Lankan business. Someone from the UK is investing in our business. That's called an inward investment. And when investment, that is called an inward investment. Right? Inward investment means from an outside country, an investment is coming into our country. That is what we call as an inward investment, right? An inward investment involves external or foreign entity either investing in or purchasing goods. It can even be purchasing goods. Not only investing in a company. සල්ලි දීලා බඩු ගන්න එකද අපේ රටේ තියෙන හදන භාණ්ඩයක් පිට රටකින් සල්ලි දීලා ගන්නවා නම් ඒකත් inward investment එකක්. It is foreign money that comes from abroad. You can write the first point, foreign money that comes from abroad. First point, foreign money that comes from abroad. First point, foreign money that comes from abroad. Foreign money that comes from abroad, right? If you have the textbook, highlight karagatta. Inward investment stands in contrast to outward investment, which is an outflow of investment capital from a local company to foreign. Okay, opposite outward investment, where our money is going into investments or to purchase goods of other countries. Inward investment account. So to do inward investment, you need to have a particular type of account called an IIA. Inward investment account is a special account designated for eligible investors resident or outside of Sri Lanka to route funds to invest in the permitted investment. Or investments karanna, they should have an IIA. What is IIA? Inward investment account. Next point you can write down. IIA, inward investment account. Details unknown. This is only a revision. No, inward investment account. Right? Licensed commercial banks and licensed specialized banks as permitted are permitted to open and maintain IIA in the domestic banking unit of a licensed commercial bank and licensed specialized banks. Okay. So in accordance with the Foreign Exchange Act, the ministry in charge has gazetted some relevant regulations which are applicable for foreign investments that read as follows, right? So there are some rules with regard to foreign investments. Let's read and see. A person resident outside Sri Lanka, a person who is resident outside, a person resident outside Sri Lanka is permitted to invest, acquire or hold all classes of shares. They can purchase shares of our companies, Sri Lankan companies, or an entitlement of shares issued by companies incorporated in Sri Lanka, subject to the exclusions and limitations given below. Now, what's the difference between an exclusion and a limitation? Exclusion කියන්නේ මේ අපි ඊළඟට exclusion යටතේ කතා කරන businesses වල invest කරන්න බෑ foreigners ලට. පිට රටක ඉන්න මිනිස්සෙක්ට අපි දැන් මුලින් කතා කරන යන businesses වල invest කරන්න බෑ. ඒවට අපි කියනවා exclusions. They are excluded, right? Foreign nationals or people residing outside Sri Lanka cannot invest in these particular set of work, set of businesses. Limitations කියලා කියන්නේ up to a particular amount. We say, okay, you can have foreign shareholding up to 40%, 50%, 60%. ඒ වගේ percentages දීපු industries ටිකක් වෙනමත් තියෙනවා, right? Percentages දීපු industries ටිකක් වෙනමත් තියෙනවා. Page number and question number. Okay, so page number is page number 4. We are at question number 5. Page number 4, question number 5. I am doing the discussion here, right? Let's see what are the businesses that people residing outside Sri Lanka cannot invest. So you can write down a topic. Residents outside Sri Lanka. Residents outside Sri Lanka cannot invest in these businesses. Residents outside Sri Lanka cannot invest in these businesses. Residents outside Sri Lanka cannot invest in these businesses. What are businesses, right? What are those businesses? First one, you can write down under that pawnbroking. Pawnbroking can't be done. Pawnbroking, right? PAWNBROKING. Pawnbroking. Retail trade. Retail trade. But retail trade only if the capital is less than $5 million. $5 million වලට වඩා අඩු retail trading. ලොකුවට values නම් මතක තියාගන්න ඕනේ නැහැ. Rough idea is enough. So they can't do pawnbroking. They can't invest in retail trading where the capital is less than $5 million and coastal fishing. They can't invest in coastal fishing. So what are the businesses that foreign investors or people residing outside Sri Lanka can't invest in? 3 businesses. What are the 3 businesses? Pawnbroking, retail trade where the capital is less than $5 million and in coastal fishing. Coastal fishing, right? මේවට සිංහල වචන මම දන්නේ නැහැ ළමයි අතර because even I studied these laws in English. මේවයි particular සිංහල වචන දන්නේ නැහැ. In case if you need the sinhala term, you let me know. I will find out the sinhala word and get back to you. මට මේ ලොකුවට ඒකේ සිංහල වචන දන්නේ නැහැ, right? Next one. What are the limitations? In the industries next that we are going to discuss, foreign investors can invest, but only up to a particular limit, only up to 40%, right? Can invest, but only up to 40%. Let's see in what. Coastal fishing is, not deep sea fishing. Coastal fishing, you can't, I mean, at the, they explain, at the coast, right? ඊට කලින් කරන fishing is called coastal fishing. I particularly don't know the singular term for it, Puta. That's why if you want, I'll find out and get back to you. I don't know the singular term for coastal fishing. Right. So now foreign investments up to 40% are allowed in the next set of businesses that we are going to discuss. Next point you can write down. Foreign investment approved up to 40%. Foreign investments approved up to 40%. Foreign investment approved up to 40%. Foreign investment approved up to 40%. So you can see there are 10 industries. ඇත්තටම මේ 10 industries පාඩම් තියෙන්නට ඕනි. You should know the 10 industries, right? Because they are, I will show you how they ask questions here. So up to 40% allow karna. First one you can write down. Production of goods where Sri Lanka has quota restrictions. ඒ කියන්නේ අපේ රටෙන් පිට රටකට යවන්න පුළුවන් ඒවට quotas තියෙනවනේ. මෙච්චරක් යවන්න පුළුවන් මෙච්චරක් යවන්න බෑ කියලා ඒ යවන්න පුළුවන්. ඒ කියලා තියෙන යවන්න පුළුවන් ප්‍රමාණය ගැන සැලකිල්ලට අරගෙන තමයි ඒ කියන්නේ quota restrictions තියෙන products වලට විතරයි මේ 40% එක අදාළ වෙන්නේ. Just simply remember as production of goods where there are quota restrictions. Production of goods where there are quota restrictions. Second one, growing and primary processing of tea, rubber, coconut. ඒ තුන මතක තියාගන්න පුළුවන් නේ අපි අර ත්‍රිකෝණේනේ තේපොල් රබර් කියන්නේ ඒක අමතක වෙන්නේ නැහැ, right? Tea, rubber, coconut and spices. අපේ රටේමනේ spices උත ඔය cocoa, rice, sugar ඔක්කොම මතක තියාගන්න බෑනේ. Tea, rubber, coconut and the spices කියලා මතක තියාගන්න, right? Growing and primary processing of tea, rubber, coconut and spices. Mining of non-renewable national resources. Mining of non-renewable national resources. They can අපිට ආයිත් එක recover කරගන්න බැරි දේවල්. They are non-renewable, right? Mining of non-renewable national resources. Then timber-based industries. Timber කියන්නේ ලී කර්මාන්තෙට. Timber-based industries. Next one, deep sea fishing. Deep sea fishing. දැන් මතක තියාගන්න coastal fishing they can't invest at all. Deep sea fishing they can invest up to 40%. Deep sea fishing they can invest up to 40%, right? Mass communication. Mass communication කියන්නේ මේ අපේ mobitel dialogue වගේ ඒ වගේ ඒවයි ඔය අනිත් radio channels එහෙම තියෙන දේවල්, right? Mass communication. Education. Right, with regard to education also maximum only 40% foreign shareholding, right? Education. Next one, freight forwarding. Freight forwarding is with regard to the shipping things. Freight forwarding is with regard to shipping, the shipping industry. Freight forwarding. Travel agencies. You all know what travel agencies are, no? Right? Travel agencies. And there is shipping agencies also, not only shipping activities, even in shipping agencies, only up to 40% that they can invest, right? The foreigners can invest. So what are the 10? Production of goods where we have quota restrictions, growing and processing of our tepol rubber, tea, coconut, rubber, spices, rice, cocoa, sugar, things like that. Mining of non-renewable resources, timber-based products, deep sea fishing, mass communication, education, freight forwarding, travel agencies and shipping agencies. Okay, travel agencies and shipping agencies. Then it's given investment in shares of a company carrying on or proposing to carry on any of the business specified below only up to the percentage of stated capital of the company. The next set of industries we are going to study is the minister will decide, right? The ministry will decide up to how much foreign shareholding is possible based on the percentage of the stated capital of the company, right? Next point you can write down. So there's no number based on the stated capital, right? Basically, they will not question you on this 7. My concern is they will question you on the completely restricted ones and 40% restriction they will question. Make a depending on the percentage of the stated capital of the company. Next point you can write down, depending on the percentage of the stated capital of the company. Depending on the percentage of the stated capital of the company. Depending on the percentage of the stated capital of the company. First one, air transportation, these flights and all, air transportation. Now remember, coastal shipping also comes here. This is coastal shipping. What is restricted is coastal fishing. Coastal fishing is completely restricted. Coastal shipping, depending on the percentage that the ministry decides, right? Coastal shipping. Next one, industrial enterprises. Industrial and different industries, right? Industrial enterprises. Next one, arms and ammunition. So, bomb, right? Arms and ammunitions. Next one, poisons, narcotics, alcohol, drugs, right? In those industries. Poisons, narcotics, alcohol, drugs, things like that, toxic things, right? Next one, mining of gems. Mining of gems. Gem industry, how much foreign percentage can be there will be decided by the minister. And the lotteries, with regard to lotteries, sweep tickets, lotteries, right? May hatanam mataka natat kamanne. May tunai, May dahayai mataka tiyagata yutui, right? It's a must that you remember these 3 and these 10. This 7, if you remember, good. If you can't remember, it's okay. And there are some general conditions also. Capital investment shall be made through. So as I told you, if you're doing an inward investment, it should come through the IIA, inward investment account. And any income that they receive, right? Any income that they receive from these inward investments have to be deposited or credited back to the IIA, to the inward investment account itself. So common transactions when they through the inward investment account, right? So with that in mind, let's try to answer the question. You're going to answer it, not me. Ravindra Gopal, now he's an Indian national, meaning he is going to invest as a foreign shareholder, right? Is considering investing in the following manner in companies incorporated in Sri Lanka, which are engaged in the mentioned business activities in Sri Lanka. Now, he wants to 100% get involved or 100%, how can you say, invest in a company engaged in growing tea. Can he do that or can't he do that? Can he do that or can't he do that? Can't. Ibery. Why can't he? Why can't he? Only up to 40%. It came under the 40% degree, no, right? So not he can't invest 100%. 60% in a company engaged in running an educational institute. Can or can't? Education in 60% in a company engaged in, again can't. Why? Again, education institute, you can only invest up to 40%, only up to 40%. 40% in a company engaged in freight forwarding. Can he or can't he? 40% in a company engaged in freight, that he can do, because up to 40% you can. 20% in a company engaged in the business of a travel agency. Can or can't? Again can, because 20% is less than 40%, up to 20%. That also he can. So question is, which of the above investment is permitted under the Foreign Exchange Act number 12 of 2017? What should be the answer? 3 and 4. 3 and 4 is answer D. 3 and 4 is answer D, the last answer. So fifth question answer is answer D, the last answer. So do you understand now the importance of studying that list? Shipping stuff, freight forwarding means something to do, I mean, shipping activities, something to do with shipping activities. Yes. So do you understand why it's important to study those lists? Because you have to understand the industry. The industry comes under what list you need to know. Okay. Now, can you all answer that questions under Foreign Exchange Act? Everyone all good? Foreign Exchange Act all good? If they ask a question from this area, you can remember the industries, no? 3, 10, sorry, 3, 10 and 7. 3, 10 and 7. Okay. So again, we'll update our list. That is also a question from additional laws, right? That's also a question from other laws. So from other laws, they have asked 2 questions. So you can see very clearly when you look at the question series, what are the questions that section 1 questions are most highly asked in? What are the areas? Okay, right. Sorry, let me share it again with you. Right, let's go to question number 6. Okay, right. It says a company secretary is no longer a mere clerk. he or she has much more importance today. He or she can sign contracts connected to the administrative side of the company's affairs, such as employing staff, ordering cars, and so forth, which bind the company. So with regard to administrative contracts, we know company secretaries can bind the company. All such matters now come within the ostensible authority of the secretary of a company. The above principle was first laid down in. So they are talking about company secretaries. This question is from page number 75. Let's move on to page number 75 to see the company secretary's duties. Page number 75. Right. So company secretary entering into different contracts will start from the previous page. So you can see they have given the role of the how to appoint a company secretary, and then the role of the company secretary has been given, process of appointing a company secretary and the relevant qualifications have been given. Of course, you can't by heart all of this, but I'll give you like a short way in the upcoming questions. I'll give you a short way to study all of this. Like I gave you those lists and we studied those lists. We'll come to that. There are enough and more questions asked from company secretary. Now, as and when you look at this question, right, they are asking the case law on what this is based on. So you can see first one, Panorama Developments Guildford Limited versus Fidelis Furnishing Fabrics Limited. කියන එක තමයි ඕගලන්ගේ syllabus එකේ තියෙන case එක, right? This Belgravia Executive Car Rental, that case is not there in your syllabus. ඒ කියන්නේ පොත නිකන් හරි බලපු එක්කෙනෙක් දන්නවා මේ Belgravia කියලා case එකක් තිබුණ නැහැ කියලා. But they have given this Panorama Development case again, but that case is against a company called Bain, a person called Bain. Now that Bain case is again not in your syllabus, but just to puzzle you up, they have given both the Panorama case in two answers. First versus Harbottle is there in your note, in your book, but not with regard to the company secretary area. So this is simply they have asked from this particular case. Panorama Developments, Guildford Limited, Fidelis Furnishing Fabrics, right? So let's read through the case and try to get something out of it just to know, because hereforth, if they ask a different area and ask you whether it's in this particular case, you will know. The company secretary of Fidelis, Mr. Bain, now the case name is not Bain, nah? Bain is the person. The case name goes as Guildford Limited versus Fidelis Furnishing Fabrics. Hired cars from Panorama Developments business, Belgravia Executive Car Rental. Bain used the paper of Fidelis and represented that he wished to hire a number of Rolls Royces and Jaguars for the business while his managing director was away. So Bain is the company secretary. He was lying and he used them himself. Bain was prosecuted and imprisoned, but Belgravia had outstanding £570, 12 hours, 6 days for the hired cars. Fidelis claimed that it was not bound by the hire contracts because Bain never had the authority to enter into them. Now, Bain was the company secretary with regard to administrative. If the cars were purchased for an administrative reason, of course, Bain will bind the company. If Bain signs a contract, Bain will bind the company. But company didn't want to pay. So company said, no, Bain ne order kare, api eකට අයිති වෙන්නේ නැහැ කියලා. Bain was anyway prosecuted and imprisoned, right? හැබැයි can you just get away from the liability saying, no, we are not responsible? Right? So that was what was said in this case of Panorama Developments case, that company secretary can bind the company in administrative contracts. Company secretary can bind the company in administrative contracts. There's a question. Can we refer company while examine Companies Act? Okay, while examine, find answers. It is okay to do things, all things in the study pack. Okay, there are two questions. First thing is the student is asking, can you refer to the Companies Act, I think. Oh, I don't know what AC stands for. I'm thinking it's CA, Companies Act. While the exam and find answer, if you can refer to the Companies Act number 7 of 2007, but that will not give you all the answers and you just have 3 hours. In 3 hours, you can't read the entire Companies Act and find answers. No, that is the first problem. Second problem is it okay to buy hard things that are in the study pack? I mean, that's the best that you can do. If you can buy hard the study pack, you're really good to go. But if everyone is not able to do that, no, if you can do that, very good. Those of you are writing a note for question number 6, write down a note. Question number 6, write down the Panorama case, or you can write down Guildford Limited versus, Panorama Developments, Guildford Limited versus Fidelis Furnishing Fabrics, right? You can write down the case name. Under that, write down company secretary company secretary can bind the company secretary can bind the company in administrative contracts. Company secretary can bind the company in administrative contracts. Company secretary can bind the company in administrative contracts. So question number 6, what's the answer? Question number 6, what's the answer? Everyone, please. Question number 6, what's the answer? Answer A, the first answer. Right. So that's from company secretaries, no? Company secretaries and auditors. Let's update our list. Company secretaries and auditors. So here again, 2 questions asked from that lesson. Now, right, let's move on to the next question. Question number 7, right? Which of the following statements is correct in relation to the annual general meeting or the AGM of shareholders under Companies Act number 7 of 2007? There is a statutory duty cast upon the shareholders to call. So without reading the questions, we'll read the area on, give me a minute. Oh, Sachin. Sorry about that. So question number 7 is on AGMs, right? We'll study the area and come to the answers. If you have the study text, turn to page number 83. Turn to page number 83. So that's another new area now, which I was not questioned earlier. Question number 83 is on meetings, resolutions, that part. So about annual general meeting, it's there, some details are there. Then about general meetings and about extraordinary general meeting, some things have been mentioned. Correct? So let's skim read through the annual general meeting and see what things we need to know. And annual general meeting is they have not asked about, they have asked about the annual general meeting. So we study the annual general meeting part. Other meetings are coming up again in questions, right? Annual general meeting, referred to as the AGM. AGM stands for annual general meeting, is a mandatory yearly gathering. So first thing you have to remember is it's mandatory, especially for public limited companies, and it's a yearly gathering, right? Of the body's executives, directors, shareholders. Everyone is meeting together. Shareholders with voting rights vote on current issues such as appointment to the company's board of directors, executive compensation, dividend payments, auditors, right? So the shareholders have the voting rights on these current issues at the annual general meeting. There's a statutory duty cast upon the board of directors to call an annual general meeting once in every calendar year. So section is section 133. The annual general meeting must be held within 6 months of the balance sheet date and not later than 15 months after the previous annual meeting. So at what point do you need to have the annual meeting? Within 6 months of the balance sheet date. Balance sheet date within 6 months, right? And from the previous annual general meeting, you have to have it within 15 months. 6 months from the date of the, 6 months from the date of the balance sheet, from the date of the balance sheet, and 15 months from the previous annual general meeting. If a company defaults in calling the annual general meeting, any shareholder of the company may make an application to the registrar of company. So if company is not holding an annual general meeting, shareholder can make a request to the registrar of companies. Registrar of companies is vested with the power to call direct a general meeting with conditions which he thinks is expedient, including modifying the articles of the company with respect of the meeting procedure. However, there are 2 exceptions recognized in law where a company is not required to conduct an annual general meeting. In 2 situations, companies don't have to call an annual general meeting. Initial annual general meeting need not be held in the calendar year of incorporation, should be held within 18 months. The first annual general meeting company can have within 18 months from the incorporation of the company, can within 1.5 years, right? The exception to the rule is recognized. There is another exception which states that it shall not be necessary for a company to hold an annual general meeting of shareholders if everything is required to be done at an annual general meeting is done by way of a resolution. So if you can pass a resolution in lieu of the annual general meeting, you can do that also, right? Signed by, but at least 85% of the shareholders should agree who would be entitled to vote on that resolution at a meeting of shareholders. So 85% or more shareholders should agree to not have the annual general meeting and pass a resolution on that behalf. What is a resolution? Don't worry. It's like a voting. We'll discuss about it also in the upcoming questions. Now let's get to the question to answer the question. There is a statutory duty cast upon the shareholders to call an annual general meeting once in every calendar year. They're asking for the correct statement. There's a statutory duty cast upon the shareholders to call an annual general meeting once in every calendar year. I'm saying that statement is wrong. Can you tell me why is it wrong? Yes, can you tell me why is it wrong? Who has to call for an annual general meeting? The board of directors, not the shareholders. Board of directors and not the shareholders. So the first statement is wrong. The Act does not exempt a company from conducting an annual general meeting for a given calendar year. Act does not exempt a company from conducting an AGM for a given calendar year. That's wrong. Under the exceptions we studied, the first annual general meeting don't have to be held within the year of incorporation. So that is wrong, right? C says, per the Act, the annual general meeting must be held within 6 months of the balance sheet date and not later than 15 months after the previous annual general meeting. That's correct. No, we studied that. The initial AGM of a company must be held in its year of incorporation is wrong. You can hold it within 18 months of the date of incorporation. Within 18 months of the date of incorporation. That's why D is wrong. So 7th question answer is answer C, the third answer. 7th question answer is answer C, the third answer. So we'll upgrade our question booklet here. So here it's the first question that we got from meetings and resolutions. Okay, right. So we discussed 7 questions, but now I have to meet you all to see how this revision series is going, how you all incorporate, how you all, talk to me and ask me questions. So now we'll have to, speed up the process a little bit. Otherwise, after section 2, section 3 questions discuss karaganda back. My personal, what I think is, I will maybe whatever that we wrote down today in class, I'll try to put it into a note and give it to you prior. Right, I'll try to hand it over to you before in your WhatsApp group to send it across to you. The short notes on each question, I'll try to, make it up so that you have it beforehand with you and we don't have to waste time in writing. That's the first thing I think we could do. And other than that, don't worry, all the 4 papers will be discussed with you with the answers and the answering styles, techniques also, together with an analysis on what questions will come at the December 2025 exam, the last exam under the old syllabus, right? So I hope that you got something out of the class today because the feedback was good. You all were very connecting with me and I'm really happy, that you all ask questions that you have, maybe in English or Sinhala, that's okay. So I'm hoping that you will join the series also continuously because I also lose the interest. Let's try to, swim through these 4 weeks and, be very, very successful at the final exam in December. All right. So thank you so much for joining me today. I'll inform online Akura to let you all get the recording also. So if you missed anything, you can listen to the recording and get your feedback. All right. Thank you so much. I'll see you all next Sunday at the same time. Thank you.